you're safe, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the show. I certainly am. What fun we've had this morning, and there's more fun to come now because we've got Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, in the studio.
Good morning.
Mr. Tice, right. James Murray reckons it's fine that she didn't tell the public about the 4.2 billion in surplus that she had, courtesy of the OBR, on November the 4th, because it's a process. And she can arrange things as she wants, and she wanted more fiscal headroom, which is why they put up tax.
What it was a car crash, and the third car crash this Chancellor has presided over. The first one being the budget 2024, the second car crash being the run-up to this budget, when people literally stopped spending, stopped investing, stopped hiring people, and then the budget itself was a car crash. The Chancellor's shown herself, frankly, to be an untrustworthy learner driver.
Right, so she should go.
Frankly,
before we crash even more.
Well, basically, confidence is absolutely shattered in her competence, in the numbers, in the huge increase in borrowing forecast by the OBR in just 6 months. I mean, 21 billion more is forecast to be borrowed in this financial year alone. That's over £600 per household, extra debt. So, yeah, confidence is shattered, and frankly, we need a new Chancellor in order to restore confidence in our economy.
Do we need a new Prime Minister? We now find out from the Sunday Telegraph, and indeed the Mail on Sunday have splashed, that the PM knew about the 4.2 billion surplus as well.
They were clearly making political decisions to prop up the hard left on their deeply socialist party and to increase welfare spending hugely by an extra £16 billion a year by the end of this sort of financial forecast 5-year period. I mean, just put that in context, that's over £600 per working household, extra money that working families will have to spend on welfare for those people who are not setting their alarm clock at 5 or 6 in the morning and going to work.
But then, as you know, some people are claiming benefits who also work, and that's at the plank. It's kind of the justification for your own decision to support the scrapping of the two-child cap, right?
On working families,
so
two
you're
parents.
saying two parents both must be working.
And those who are on low incomes, and that's because, of course, all of this is because income tax thresholds have been frozen for many years, and this government's now going to freeze them for longer. Whereas our aspiration, when we've cut the vast amount of wasteful spending, is to lift that income tax threshold so you can make work pay. That's the critical thing in society. It's got to pay to go to work, and for too many people, they're trapped on welfare.
Isn't there just an argument that if the welfare bill is going to be 70 billion higher at the end of this parliament?
It shouldn't be. There's no argument for that.
But it is going to be, because that's the reality of Labour in power right now, Richard Tice, and it's going to hit 403 billion by the end of Parliament. I think it's scheduled for 2031, OK? 403 billion quid. Although it's a noble aim, and I presume you're doing it because you're trying to increase the indigenous British population.
But the cost to us of about our policy is about 300 million a year. It's literally a tiny drop in the ocean. Much better is to actually start saving money on welfare.
But
for example, we shouldn't be paying any welfare.
Well,
that's part.
Why are you doing it?
Because we want more working families, British families, to have babies. But at the same time, you cut welfare by stopping paying foreign nationals any welfare payments. If people came here to work, the clue's in the word work.
Yeah.
And so you've got to do that. We've got to have a higher international health surcharge. We've got to cut the vast amount of grotesquely wasteful foreign aid spending. We discover we're sending tens and tens of millions of pounds to people like the Lebanese police force and to Turkey. This is insane.
A quick question on Nathan Gill. Daisy Cooper, the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats, is in here calling for an investigation into any of you taking Russian money. Are any of you taking Russian money?
Of course not. It's just ridiculous.
Well, why won't you have an investigation? What we've called for. I'll
tell you what, we've got nothing to hide. What we've called for, let's have an investigation into all overseas interference into politics. And do you know where that starts? It starts with China and their relationship with the Labour Party.
You're actually agreeing with the Lib Dems, because she wants to.
We've called for a full inquiry into all overseas interference. And I tell you what, the reason Labour won't do it, as the government of the day, is because it will expose their close links to the Chinese regime. Whether it's giving away the Chagos Islands, whether it's the collapse of the spy case, whether it's a senior MP receiving hundreds of thousands.
We talk about Russians for a minute.
Talk about who you want. I mean,
just to channel God help us, my inner Alistair Campbell and Carol Cadwallader.
Lucky you.
If there's nothing to see here and there are no links between the Russians and reform, you may as well carry out a comprehensive and robust independent investigation yourselves.
No one would trust an inquiry. Have a national inquiry into all overseas interference. The reason the government won't do that is because of their links to China. And, of course, the collapse of the spy case. And now we've got the mega embassy that's about to be approved, we think, next month.
OK. Kemi Badenoch has suggested that Nigel Farage, if he did make a Jewish schoolboy feel uncomfortable and the victim of anti-Semitism while they were at Dulwich College, that he should actually turn around to this bloke and apologise. Yes, he may have said it as a young man. I appreciate that what we say in our teenage years isn't necessarily something that we carry through. Some people, for instance, are socialists when they're teenagers and then become righties when they
start paying tax.
When they're over the age of 40. But to be very serious about this, an allegation of anti-Semitism that Nigel Farage was going around saying to Jewish students jokes about gassing Jews. It's totally unacceptable, isn't it?
And it is completely unacceptable. But the point is, there is no one who has stood up for the Jewish community more than Reform UK. We were the first people who called for these hideous pro-Palestine marches to be banned.
But why doesn't he apologise to this BAFTA-winning director?
Because he's very... these allegations are 49 years old. Why weren't they made 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
Well, to be fair,
I'll tell you why, because they're made up.
No,
they're absolutely made up.
To be fair, Michael Crick, who I interviewed on my other outlet, the Daily Tea podcast for The Telegraph, he wrote a book about this because he had done a Channel 4 Dispatches documentary about whether or not Nigel Farage was, quotes, racist. He concluded, and let's be honest, I don't think Michael Crick is necessarily aligned to Reform, or indeed Nigel Farage, that he wasn't racist, but he had been anti-Semitic when he was younger. So he needs to own that, doesn't he?
No, I don't think he needs to own anything at all like that. Look, the reality is that these allegations are made up by people with a serious political bias who don't want Nigel to be Prime Minister. And
so any criticism that is made of any of you, you can just brush it off saying it's biased.
Can you remember what you said 49 years ago?
I can remember most things. I don't think I ever went around joking about gassing the Jews. Not least because I was at school.
I think all of this. I think this
I don't
is
think
nonsense.
I've ever have said anything like this.
I think this is all nonsense. I don't think any of us would have said things. I think this is just made up by people who've got a serious political action.
All right, Richard Tice, thank you very much as ever. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week.